Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Before we get started, there are just a few items to share with you. This afternoon session, all phones are in listen-only mode. We will be taking questions. We will be doing this through the chat function. You may submit a question through the chat function by clicking on the cartoon thought cloud in the upper left corner of your screen. You may submit a question at any time during the presentation to the moderator there. Now, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters. We have Paul Preston, Program Administrator, and Russ Howard, Project Manager. Good afternoon, Paul.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome, Russ. Glad to have you with me this afternoon. Michael, this is our third webinar that we're providing information and technical assistance on this brand new 22-plus adult high school diploma program. The first webinar was presented back in March. We provided information on and technical assistance on the provider application, how to submit it. The second webinar was presented in May, and it provided participants information and technical assistance on how to submit and enter student application information. Today's webinar will provide participants with information and technical assistance on the payment process. And all three of these are extremely important, obviously, and they go together. But this is a very appropriate time to have this webinar. And because this is, we've received this morning the very first 22 adult high school diploma graduate information on a graduate. So we have our very first graduate. Yes. Hooray! And the congratulations goes to Mrs. Bowes and Dr. Brown and the entire Life Skills of Dayton team for assisting in this process for a very first graduate from the high school diploma program. So, and he will also, be our first graduate, not only theirs, but our first graduate too. So, we're going to be working with IT and payments, etc., to make certain that Life Skills gets paid for what they've done, for their dedication on all their hard work. So this presentation is very important. It's also important because it's summertime, and so we don't have that many participants on this webinar personally, but it'll be posted on our website. And when it's on the website, people can access it and the PowerPoint presentation, etc. So let me go back over what the focus of today's webinar is. Access the student finance page, how to enter student attendance information, create student invoices, submit student invoices, and the student verification process. All these are important. That student verification process is probably going to be a little different than most other systems that have been connected with ODE payment system. This is the student themselves will verify that the services were delivered to that student, and they have to click on that. It's a web-based process, and so there's the assurance that actually the services were delivered. So this is a really very unique IT program too. So this is not new information, but I thought I would go back over it again. There's 4 basic types of providers. There's the charter school dropout recovery programs. There are district programs that operate dropout recovery programs. There are vocational school districts that operate adult programs. And there are community colleges, university branches, etc., that are eligible. Again, a very important item is that we've had the very first community college that has submitted an application. Columbus State Community College has submitted one, so we'll soon have that. So we have primarily right now dropout recovery programs, but we've had a district submit an application and now a community college. So we are well on our way. Resources. All of the webinars that have been presented so far are can be accessed through the ODE website. I'm also in the process of putting together information on user manuals, etc., and FAQs, which are in draft form, and I've shared with many of the providers already. So any of the providers that are listening to this, if you'll provide me with some feedback, I'll change those from draft to be posted on the website. So much appreciate any feedback. So let's get right into this now, Michael. Okay, first point is the login process. As before, go in through the safe access to ODE's website, and then once you're there, they'll see and they'll click on the Adult Learner tab right there on the left-hand side at the very top, and they'll have to do that in order to get it logged into the payment process. That will take them, as soon as they click on that, that'll take them to the provider landing page. On the right-hand side, they'll find, on this page, will be listed all of the approved providers. They'll click on their particular the agency on the right-hand side, and that will open it up then onto the next page. Once they're there to the main page for there, they will click on the Finance tab there at the very top. It's the third one across. It says Finance. It's Provider, Student, and Finance at the top there. Good. They'll go then to the page that says Student Finance Search Page. If they have information on the student, they can click it in there. Otherwise, just click on Search, and it'll probably just automatically go right there to the next page. That next page, the very first page, will be a list of students that have already been enrolled. And on the right-hand side, there's a Go To button, and that they just select whatever student they want to enter information on. Now remember, this is the third phase in everything. So they've already submitted a provider application. They've completed their student application. Now they're going to want to get paid for it, for the student, for the services they provided. So the student's already in the system, so they're going to click on the student that they want to have payment for or create an invoice for. The very first page that'll take them to automatically is the attendance page. And this is essentially information that they're going to be logged on. Now, right on this example, there's a little white box down there that says May. What they're going to do when those people that are listening right now, we're going to be into a new fiscal year. So they're going to be clicking on, probably it's going to be a July 2014 up there at the top if they're going to be entering information. But if you have any questions as we're moving through this next fiscal year, obviously give me a call. But we also plan on doing another webinar prior to early July sometime, just on touching base with you on all these three different areas. Russ, you want to say anything at all about this? Anything about the attendance page?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. On our next page, thank you, Michael, you see right in that box is where you enter the hours. So it can be as few as 10, 15, whatever, 100 hours. But when you click on that, that's where you enter it. And then you click on the save icon, which is to your right, which is that little blue, what is that? It looks like a disc icon. After the attendance hours, there, click on that save icon. So once that's clicked on.
Just one thing. I mean,
yes.
Whatever the students enroll in the program with a provider, the student's attendance must be entered each month. And in order to be able to submit an invoice, attendance must be recorded for that month. Otherwise, the system won't let you submit an invoice.
Good. Excellent. That's why I have Russ here, pointing out all these items that I sort of miss, and those are thank you, Russ, for that. You see on the right-hand side up there, you also have a pencil icon. That pencil icon allows you to edit whatever you put into that particular box. And then there's, to the right of that, a comment box so that you have to, if you need to enter any information on any irregularities or any information regarding the attendance of the student. If it's low attendance, you could say in there, the student was sick most of the month or had a death in the family or whatever, something like that, so that you can track information on that, because each one of you will have attendance or have your own attendance policies and procedures, and if a student needs to be withdrawn, you'll want to be able to do that and document why, and this would be a good place to document if there's attendance issues. Okay, this will automatically go to the invoice page. Russ, you want to mention anything on this page here starting off?
No, to start off with, I can comment if there's anything comes up that
Okay, good. So we're going to be clicking on this invoice page, and again, it's for students who have passed any courses, et cetera. It's only for passage. So click on that one. We'll go to the next one, and that is add a new invoice. And when you click on that add a new invoice, that's going to take you to the page that you're actually going to start. You can go on to the next page, Michael. Great. So there's two things going to happen here. When you click on that add new invoice button below, then you go to another page where it's the actual invoice window itself that you'll be entering in information. Okay. You see that box up to your right-hand corner. It says Add Course. When you click on that, you can add click on Add Course to access the student content or elective course requirements the student has passed as part of the student success plan. So that all those little words go together to form what's going to result in an invoice. So, Michael, you can go to the next one. We're going to cover also you notice I didn't mention assessments. We'll be covering how you do the invoices for the assessments in some slides as we move forward. So right now, all we're doing is discussing the content or elective course requirements info that's in the success plan. And you see the window over to your left. It says course type. In this particular example, it's an elective requirement, and that's a drop-down box, so you can select either an elective or a content course. But this one we've selected an elective requirement. Right next to that, it says mathematics. Again, you see it's a drop-down box, so you can select whether it be mathematics, English, etc. On the next box, it's the start date and then the end date. Those two dates are very important. That's when the student started the course and finally finished the course. The next box to the right of that are the credits, and that can be from 1 to 1.5 or to 3 or whatever. What's important is the credits that are clicked will tell you the amount you're going to be paid for that particular course. Good, Michael. So in this example, you see a point or 0.5 credits only, and that's going to be for $357.14. So you can go to the next one if you will, Michael.
I think just before we go on,
yep.
I know you mentioned it, Paul, but as far as invoicing, you can only invoice for elective or content requirements that are in the student success plan and the credits associated with those. So they can only invoice for what the student's planning to take to graduate.
Good. Good. Okay. Michael, where are we now? Good. Okay. So this is an example of one full credit here, where before was a half credit. So you see the $714.28 for a full credit there. And the same thing, this time it's content requirements, mathematics, the dates there, and full credit. Okay, Michael? Then you click on Save Course or Cancel. So you have both options there. And in this case, we're going to go on with Save. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the invoice will show the course, the dates, the credits, and the amount of the payment for that particular course. Go on. Okay, show it again. Shows you, and now the box that has the red box there shows the amount. So on that page, there's a lot of information for you to absorb and to see. And you can see there'll be history, comments, etc. So there's a lot of information on these pages. Okay, Michael. Okay, and then at the bottom there, once you're satisfied with everything, there is a click the Save or Cancel button. In this case, it's going to be Save. Okay, and that takes us to the next page. After the invoice is saved, the invoice status changes to Started. Okay. Okay, a new invoice may be added if another course or another course and has been passed. Now, the system has changed this, so on this slide it's not fully correct. Now, I want to make that and certainly understand this. This is only for the courses that are in invoices. The invoice system for assessment will be covered in a little bit. Just want to make clear that. So, okay, Michael? So, in this situation, click Submitted. You can do either save or cancel. If you have to go away from it, you're not ready to submit it, click on Save. If you got the wrong information in there, click Cancel, and you can go back and start over again. Okay? Thank you. Okay, now, in this particular incident, a course transcript was not uploaded, so you'll receive a message for every course that you're going to attempt to get payment for and submit an invoice for. You have to upload a transcript for that course to verify that it was actually taken and passed, etc. Okay, Michael? So, this will automatically, then you would go back to the Finance Documents page, and on this page, there's a course transcript over in the left hand in that yellow box. That's the same as with the provider and the student application. When you have to upload documents, it'll always be found, those documents that are required are found in that left-hand box there, the yellow box. And then you click on that, you click, like for example, this one, course transcript. That'll take you right into the system where you'll upload the document on this, and automatically do that. It'll download it, etc. And then you need to click on Refresh, and then you can see it. Okay, Michael? Do you want to mention anything, Russ? I mean, you feel welcome to jump in here.
It's okay.
Okay, so once that document is uploaded, now you can go back and click Submitted, and this time it'll work for you. Okay, Michael? Good. So now you see the status has changed. It's called the current invoice status. In this particular situation, it's submitted, that the status is. Okay. Where am I? Good. Okay, now we've talked about courses being invoiced for courses. The system for invoices for assessment are a little different. There's obviously 5 potential invoices for assessments: reading, writing, mathematics, social studies, science, if all of those are required to be taken. If the person has passed 3 of them, then there'll only be 2 that are going to be available. But it'll all be a part, as Russ mentioned earlier, part of the success plan. And that's why it is so important. Okay, that's okay. I'll continue to talk while Michael brings us back. So, when on the graduation requirements page, if the student has not taken an assessment, don't click on that page. If they haven't taken any, don't click on that they have. We've had some problems in the past with providers that didn't fully understand what goes on which page. But the graduation requirement page are only those things, only those courses and assessments that the student has actually taken and passed. The student success plan are those courses and assessments the student needs to take. And so these assessments then will show up on this assessment invoices pages. And so all it's really going to have to do is drop down boxes. So anyway, so Michael, go on to the next one if you will, please. Okay. Russ, why don't you talk about a little about this page as much as you want to. There's required data that has to go in under all these categories in order to submit an invoice. You want to talk anything about these? Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I don't really have anything.
Okay. So, you see under subject, that's where, under that category is where you're going to have reading, writing, and it has all these listed because this particular student needs to take all 5 of those. Underneath that, it's called the grade or code, so it would be like the 9th grade or the 10th grade or whatever. The test data or test date is when they took it. Now, that means when they've taken it from you. The assessment, OGT, probably it's going to be, test score is going to have to be over 400. And the next one will essentially be, since you're manually entering most of this, it's going to just automatically indicate that it was manually entered. The status box there will be just the status of it, whether it's accepted or whatever, or correction needed or whatever. It'll show up. And then the last action is there's a submit button or reset, or excuse me, request for waiver. So let's go on to our next one if you want to.
And just as you mentioned, the test score has to be proficient, which is above 400, and the system will not let you submit an assessment unless the score is above 400.
Good.
You're going to get paid if the student gets proficient or above.
Good. Now what I've done, we've created some sample slides here, just so we can walk you through this assessment information. So each one of them. So this is really a duplication of the last slide, and we'll go to the next one now, Michael. Okay. So sample 2, as I mentioned before, graduation requirements. Having that information is absolutely critical, because remember, once you save it, it's actually locked in. Now, we can make the changes, but it's not easy. So, the assessment, and I clicked on this here, so this student has not passed any of the 5 assessments. Okay, Michael? Okay, so this is the success plan. The success plan tells you what that student will need to be taking over the next 2 consecutive years. This student, for example, does not plan to graduate this year, so that little box on the right-hand side up there is not checked to graduate. And so, therefore, he is not taking every course this year that he needs to, which is fine. So, okay, Michael? But he is going to try to pass all those assessments. And that's where we go to that next page. So these are the assessments he's going to try to pass. And all those, there's 3 OGTs. And you can go to the next one. Now, excuse me there. On the right-hand side is a little pencil thing. And that is important because that's where you enter the data. For example, we're going to click on this one under mathematics, and we're going to enter data for mathematics. So we click on that pencil that's on the right-hand side. Okay, good. So you see here we have mathematics. It's mathematics. The exam code, it's going to be for the 12th grade. Test date there, OGT, got a 405, manually entered, and it's all ready to be set up to click on submit. Okay, the next one, so we're right there, and you have a choice. It's submit, request waiver, or click on the pencil tool in case you need to go back and maybe he didn't get a 405, he actually got a 450. So you go back in there and change that 450 to 450. Okay, Mike. Good. Okay, so you see, are you sure you want to perform this action on submit? So you're going to get these type of messages almost on all these screens that are critical information. Do you want to submit, or you want to request a waiver, or whatever? So in this case, here it is. It's just, and then you have to click on OK. Great, thank you. So you clicked OK, but you got another message. It says proof of assessment. An assessment document is needed. So you're going to click on OK, and then you're going to go to that page where it's the doc page. So we're now at the document page, but this is the assessment document page. And you're going to have to upload a proof of assessment. You see that on the left-hand side there. So it's proof of assessment, and that needs to be uploaded. And we've uploaded it in this example already. And it's a math assessment, and I think it's about. Make certain that you refresh the screen when you do that, or you're going to end up putting it in there 5 times, like it was in this example. Okay, and how you do that? You go to the browse, and you select that. It'll probably go to your main screen and your desktop screen, and you type in what you want, and you'll locate the math assessment and type in that there, and then you just click upload, and it uploads. And again, remember to hit refresh. Great. Okay, so we've uploaded it now. Now we can actually hit submit, and the next action will be, and this is very important because with the assessment process, let Michael do that. Good. When you hit submit, then the process for creating an invoice is done automatically. You don't have to do anything else. It just automatically generates an invoice. And the next action on it will be actually the student will have to go in there, and you can go to the next page, Michael. The student will have to go in there and approve it. Okay. Okay. Now this is an important notice, and this may change, but right now invoices may only be submitted one time per month. So if you have a number of students that you think will be doing invoices during that month, you might wait to a particular time close to the end of the month to submit those invoices. If you're only going to have one student graduating or one student completing courses during a month, then you can submit it whenever you think it's appropriate. But at this particular time, you can only submit invoices one time per month. Okay, verification of invoice submitted. This is going to be, this shows you can go to this page and you'll see there, search all the invoices and their particular status that you've submitted so far. Okay, Mike? So now we enter into what might be one of the most interesting parts of our type of application, and that is where the student, the adult learner, actually verifies that they took a course and passed the course, and the provider should be paid. That's why it's so important that that correct email address is initially entered for the student when they start, at the very process, beginning of the process. This is that student page, information page on the student application. The student is required, they're going to get an email and an instruction on this to log into the SAFE account, enter information, and it'll be telling how they have to create themselves a SAFE account. Okay, Michael. And the student must log in, create the, there, okay. Why do we have two of these? Okay, you can go on, Michael. Okay, then after they log into the SAFE account, and they'll have instructions and information on this. In fact, we'll probably do a webinar for students on how to do this. They're going to click on that invoice tab, to the second one up there, and they're going to see, come down to the right, go to the Go To tab there, verify that a course or assessment or both were passed. Okay? Good. So the student is taken to the Invoice Acceptance page, where the student verifies that a course or assessment or both were passed by accepting the invoice. So this is that verification process for the student. Okay? After the student verifies that a course or assessment or both were passed by selecting Invoice Accepted, the 22+ adult HSD administrator, myself, creates a payment for the student. Now, obviously, the payment doesn't go to the student, it goes to the provider, but that's how it's being set up. Okay, Michael?
I know it was on that screen, but the student can also reject an invoice.
Oh, yeah.
But they have to provide a comment for why they're rejecting it.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. Was that on? Do you know back up?
No, we needed an updated screenshot.
Yeah, we do.
Didn't have that option.
That's right. Okay, good. So that student, can reject it, but they have to make a comment. Good point. As you can see, this process is sort of building the plane while we're flying it. Okay, Michael? Good. Okay. It's an annual renewal process, and this is June 29th, so the current funding ends tomorrow. And my guess is this, that the student that just graduated will be paid for. That's our only student who, out of this past budgetary money. But one way or the other, wherever the money comes from, Life Skills of Dayton will be paid for that student. But right now, from what I've heard, there's $2.5 million in the budget for this program next year, so it looks like it's a go. So it all looks okay right now. Any questions, Michael? We get any questions?
Paul, we did not receive any questions. We invite those who are participating in the webcast this afternoon to submit questions using the chat function by clicking on the cartoon thought cloud in the upper left corner of your screen. In the meantime, Paul, where may individuals contact you, or how may they contact you if they have any questions following today's session?
Good question, yeah. So there's my email address right there, or my phone number, either one, and that's the best way to get a hold of me, and they shouldn't hesitate. There's a lot. I'm in pretty good contact with most of the providers, so, and then we've been receiving a number of phone calls from potential students wanting to know how they can participate in this program. After the first of the year, I think we probably, the current providers, maybe we need to have a conference call on what you can do to market your program, because what we have is we have another program that's going on simultaneously. That's the Career Tech program. They're sort of, and they have a lot of money, and they are aggressively marketing their program. You might be able to connect with them and sort of do a joint marketing or something. But the word's getting out there, and so anyway, once we're through the beginning of the new fiscal year, we need to be, I think, a little more serious about the marketing area. Okay, we have some questions here, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much. Our first question, are you able to comment on the application process for year 2?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Craig. The application process is going to be exactly the same. It will be no different. So what you will be able to do, you'll be able to essentially cut and paste everything you submitted for the first application into the second application. We've made some little tweaks into the system, so those will be taken care of. But essentially, that's what you'll need to do. You may have also learned some things as far as enhancing your program, and therefore you may want to update your user manual and your student manual and that type of information. But essentially, everyone that's a provider right now, I think they've all been approved or in the process of being approved.
Excellent.
There's a renewal process for the provider and a renewal process for the student. So
yes,
we will schedule a webinar to walk everyone through that.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. May we submit an invoice when an adult learner has finished a course? Is it correct that we do not have to wait until they graduate to submit the invoice?
That's correct, but they must have passed the course as opposed to finishing the course, and that's been drilled into us. This is a competency-based program, so passage has to be done, and you have to be able to document that the student has passed. But you certainly may submit those invoices prior to graduation. You get a bonus once they graduate, so that's on top of course passage and assessment passage and graduation. So there's 3 different ways of receiving funds.
Excellent. Our next question, is there a fund number for this program?
That's a very good question. I think that has to do with the categories for staff, etc. And send me an email on that. We do not have that totally locked down or information on that yet, but we have been working on that for a while now. So please, send me an email if you would, please. I'd much appreciate that.
Excellent. At this time, Paul and Russ, we have no further questions. Would you like to give some closing comments?
Russ?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, thank you.
Another question.
Looks like we have another question here.
We do. Thank you very much. This is regarding attendance. Is there a policy from ODE regarding attendance or schools to make their own attendance policy? I guess, is there a guidance from ODE about this, or is it up to the local level to make this policy for attendance?
It's up to the local level to make the policy for attendance. It's really, we're leaving it up to each program to determine the consequences for not attending, essentially, really. So you have a student that only comes occasionally, is not really serious about it. The question is this, so this is why it's important to have a policy. Do you want to keep that money locked up for that student for all that time when they're not doing anything? So it depends upon the particular program, but that's been one of the areas that some of the programs have taken a very, how do I say, I'll also call it severe perspective on consequences for students not being engaged. Now, once you have, that's part of the initial contact with the student. A counselor should be involved with that, developing the success plan, et cetera, and getting the graduation requirements. And at that time, you should be in good communication with the adult learner on what their schedule is like. Now, for example, if they can only be there one day a week and a few hours, that, per your policy, that may be okay. But if they're going to be there one day a week, one evening a week, and they're not meeting that obligation that you've already had them agree to, maybe even sign something to, you have to have some mechanism in place to be able to withdraw that student so that you can withdraw them legally. So yeah, that attendance policy is probably more important than we first considered when we first put this out. So yeah, the attendance policy is one of those important ones to get together.
Paul and Russ, we have no further questions.
Okay, good. Final comment I would have is that we are planning on doing another webinar probably within the first 2 weeks of July, just bringing everybody up on the whole renewal process so that everybody's on board and understanding what they need to do to roll over into the next program. And that was a really great question on attendance, because of one of the areas I would say that we've learned or come to take a closer look at would be the attendance policy that each of these programs will have, and the need to make certain that's communicated to the adult learner, and the adult learner actually signing off on it too.
Excellent. Thank you very much for participating in our session this afternoon. This concludes our webinar.